All right, welcome back to another episode. So in this episode, we're going to have to implement a feature on our backend API to allow date ranges because that's how we're going to filter it out. So I'm going to explain to you how this is going to work. So let me go into my database right now, right over here, and I'm going to show you how in our database server how we can actually return data based on the date range, and then how we're going to do that with type ORM. It's actually pretty simple. So I'm going to perform a raw SQL query. So select asterisk from guild bands, and then we're gonna have to apply a condition. So that condition is going to be we need to select all of the guild bands that are greater than a certain date. So I think 7 days. So if we were to count 7 days, including today, so remember today's the 10th, right? So today, and then there's 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, and 4th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's from today all the way until the 4th. That's 7 days, including today. So we would say, okay, well, today's the 10th. Subtract 7. That should land us on, I think, 4. We might need to add 1 in the code to actually get it to January 4th. So let's do this. Where, and then issued on is greater than or equal to. So 2022 01 04. And if you want, you can actually provide like a time as well, but we're just going to only do the date, like the actual month and day. So you can see right over here, this is going to give me everything that is greater than the 4th, or greater than or including January 4th. So everything from January 4th all the way up until today. Now, if you actually look over here, you won't find January 3rd. I do have only one record on January 3rd, but let's do something more recent. Let's do everything after January 6th, and you're going to see that we're going to have less records. Okay, so it's going to give us, everything on January 6th up until today, which you can see right over here. And it's not in sorted order, but we can fix that ourselves. And if we want to do everything from January 7th, on January 7th all up until today, we can do that as well. But obviously, we're only going to worry about 7 days going back, and you can also do like 30 days, 6 months, etc., etc. But that's for later though, okay? So if we're doing it by 7 days, all we need to do is we need to take each day and we need to actually, we need to kind of like tally up all of the data, which is why I want to save it for this video, because that would have taken some time. So let me explain a little bit more what we're going to have to do. So we're going to have to take each date and we're going to have to basically get all of the bands on that date. So we need to format all the information so that way when we send it to the front end, it's actually just ready to go. That's why I said we can either do this on the front end or the back end. I think it's better if we do it on the back end, to be honest with you, to save some time on the front end, to save, some lines of code on the front end. It doesn't really matter too much, but I think doing it on the back end would be a lot better. Though it could be a little bit tricky because essentially it would kind of like, how to explain this? If we were to do all of the filtering on the back end and then putting everything formatting the data in a way where we're able to send it to the front end, it wouldn't be reusable. So I think it's better if we just send the records back to the front end and let the front end do whatever it needs to do with it. Let the client do whatever it needs to do with it. Because you got to also understand when it comes to design purposes as well, you don't want to design an API in a way that is not reusable, right? And you want to design in a way where you can just get some data and then the client that is fetching that data can do whatever it wants with it. So if we were to, on the back end, return all of the data in a way that it's formatted just ready for the front end, well, we wouldn't be able to reuse that data in another application if we needed it, for example, right? So I think that would be poor design if we did that. So it's better if we just return the data and let whatever client that is fetching the data do what it needs to do with it. So in other words, we're going to actually just return the data the way it is with the date ranges, and then we're just going to let the front end take care of formatting data and displaying it so that the chart can interpret it and render it correctly. Now that we've done a lot of talking, let's go ahead and actually figure this out. So inside the Nest.js project, I think what we're going to do is, I think the best thing to do is you can have like a query parameter that specifies like the from dates, like the start date. I want to start like getting records, which is always going to be 7 days or 30 days or 6 months, right? But if it was like months though, it would probably have to handle it differently. So what I'll do is we'll do a specific we'll do a specific dates. So 7 days, right? So for example, on the front end, or not on the front, on the API call, we will need some kind of query parameter. So we'll call that start date. So I'm going to go ahead and use the query decorator, and we're going to give the name of the query parameter. It's just going to be from dates. Okay, and this is going to have to be a date. So I think what we could do is we just use the date type, and I'm going to show you how this is going to look like. Okay, so let me go into the application, and I'm going to go ahead and make an API call here. So from date, and let's try 01/05/2022, and look at let me see what it looks like in the console. Wait, whoops, not here. Okay, so it says 01/05/2022. Okay, I think we could probably leave this as a string, to be honest, but I don't really think it would matter too much. But as long as we have the date over here, we're fine. And I don't think there should be any issues with formatting. I think this should be just fine, because what we're gonna do when we actually fetch this data from the front end, we're actually just gonna create the date object in React, and we're gonna just paste it. We're going to provide that as a parameter. So hopefully there's not going to be much issues. I don't think there will. Okay, but let's just take this from date. We're going to need to pass this inside get guild bands. So what we're going to do is inside the interface, we're actually going to make this from date an optional parameter. Okay, so it's not required, and if it's not required, it'll just return all the guild bands. Okay, so from date. Okay, and what we need to do is, in order to actually search based off of the date range, we can actually add an extra parameter called where. So with this where property, we're going to it's similar to how when we use the where keyword in like an actual raw SQL statement. This is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to search for all of the guild band logs based off of the guild ID, and where the date of that guild band log is greater than this from date. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, with type ORM, we can actually do this. We can actually set this as where, and then we can specify the name of the column, which is, if I remember correctly, created on, I think. Let me double check. Issued on. Okay, so issued on. Okay, and now there's this more than function, or I guess you can call this an operator, and this more than operator is going to allow us to search for all the records that are pretty much more than or greater than. I think we want more than or equal to. I wonder if they have more than. Yeah, or equal, and we want it more than or equal to this from date right over here. Okay, so we can just pass in from date like this, and I think that should fix that. I wonder what's this issue right over here. Let me see. I think it's complaining because of the data type, I think. Let me see. All right, so it seems like I need to remove guild ID right over here and bring that inside this this where object right over here. Maybe I think those two things were conflicting. Okay, so now we gotta go ahead and take from date, and we gotta pass it into get guild bands. Okay, right over here. And let's see. So we're gonna pass it in here. Yeah, I think that's all we gotta do. So let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm gonna go, and in my browser, we're gonna go ahead and pass in the date. If I refresh, it's giving us a 500. Let's find out why. It's saying incorrect date time value. Okay, so I think the reason why is probably because we're passing just the day and the month and the year. So that's quite interesting. So it's not letting us. I mean, we could modify. We could actually just create a new date object from this, and I think that would work, if I'm being honest with you, because if I were to just create it, it would just set the seconds, the hours and the minutes, or the hours, minutes, and seconds to, I think, 0, all zeros. So let's see. Okay, let me look at the logs real quick. Yep, so you can see that January 5th, 2020, and then this is in UTC time, I think. So yeah, this is in the UTC time. But you can see that it's all zeros, though. Yeah, I think in UTC this would actually be 0 as well. That's okay. All right, so if we were to look at the results, let's just make sure that there's nothing returned from the 4th, because we do have some records in our database that are from the 4th, I think. We only have one, so we shouldn't see anything from the 4th. And you can see that when I try to search for it, it doesn't exist, which is good. What if I tried, actually, yeah. What if I tried, let's see, so we do have everything from the 5th as well, yep. What if I tried everything from the 7th? So you can see that we're starting to get less and less results. If I try doing everything from the 9th, so the past 2 days, you can see we have everything from the 10th, but nothing from the 8th. Only the 10th and the 9th, which is good. Okay, so I think this actually would work just fine. Okay, now yeah, I think this is totally fine. Cool. Okay, so now that we have all of this stuff being returned, all we got to do is just call this from the front end. Okay, and then on the front end, we're gonna have to format all the data, so that way we can render it with chart.js. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. Let me actually see what happens if I don't provide a date. If I don't provide a date, it's going to just give me an empty array. So I wonder if there's a way. There's probably a way where we can say if there's no date, then we can go ahead and just omit this issued on. Let me try this. Either issued on or null. So it seems like this doesn't want to work. That's kind of a little bit irritating. I mean, what I could do is I want to make it so that if issued on, or I'm sorry, not issued on, if from date is truthy, then we can just call this. If not, we'll just call it with guild ID. I mean, I know what I could do is I could just do this. I could just do from date. So from date is truthy, do that. Otherwise, call it like this without there. I mean, that looks fine, but it is kind of ugly. But we'll leave it like this for now. There we go. So this will give us everything regardless of what the date is. Okay, so hopefully this part of the tutorial makes sense on why we are specifying the date. And what we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to go to the React app. We're going to fetch this endpoint. And we're going to format the data first. And then we're going to go ahead and install chart.js and then display everything in the chart. So I'll see you all in the next episode. Peace out.